Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, patriots all over our country that is under God, welcome to tonight's Red America First Town Hall, the nation's most engaging platform where we, the people, run the show. Red, not for Republican, rather for the blood of Christ, America First policies and candidates, and I'm your host, Ashley Weis. For 4 years, we stood as a beacon of unity and strength, draped in the symbolic red of our conviction, dedicated to the America First policies and Christian values that our nation was founded on. Here we gather not just to discuss, but to act, empowering our community through education, engagement, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Town Hall is igniting the conversations that matter. We're at the forefront of a movement to ensure a free, prosperous, and vibrant future for all Americans.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weis. Tonight we're joined by retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor, our foreign policy analyst, to discuss Ukraine's collapse, Iran's red line, and Trump's fight to stop World War III. And at 9 p.m., we will be having Charlotte O'Hare, a battle-tested conservative warrior and Republican candidate for Kansas governor in 2026. With a proven record as former Kansas House representative and outspoken Johnson County commissioner, who fearlessly fought against wasteful spending, woke indoctrination, and globalist overreach, she's on a mission to rein in corporate welfare, ban DEI nonsense, restore education to the basics, and make Kansas a gold standard for America First values, standing tall against establishment to protect our heartland from Washington elites. Join Pastor's Point this coming Monday at 8 p.m. They will continue with chapter 8 of the book of Revelation. When the Lamb opens the seventh seal, heaven falls silent for half an hour before 7 angels receive 7 trumpets of judgment. The prayers of the saints rise like incense, and the fire from the altar is cast to earth, triggering thunder, lightning, and earthquakes. The first 4 trumpets then unleash partial but terrifying plagues, burning a third of the earth, turning a third of the sea to blood, poisoning a third of the waters with wormwood, and darkening a third of the heavenly lights, as merciful warnings of greater wrath to come and final call to repentance. Pastor's Point's goal is to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ, deepen understanding of God's word, and inspire believers to live by biblical truth.
Patriots, mark your calendar. Tuesday, December 2nd is Giving Tuesday. And this year we're calling for all of you to come to Faith and Freedom Warrior. We're going to send that out, givesendgo.com/Red America First/donate. We need some support from those viewers and also those that want to join our panel and speak with guests like Colonel Douglas Macgregor or the Kansas gubernatorial candidate, Charlotte O'Hara. Please go to redamericafirst.com and let us know that you want to be a panel member. We always start Town Hall with prayer, so we're going to call on Dr. Aaron Gray to lead us into prayer tonight. So if everybody could bow their heads, and thank you so much in advance, Dr. Aaron Gray. He's also the host of Pastor's Point. Thank you so much in advance. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me be here, guys. Let's bow our head and pray. Heavenly Father, Lord God, we come before your throne. We thank you for all the grace, the mercy, the compassion you've shown upon us, Lord. We thank you for the very fact that though you are eternal, though you are the one that has made us, you are the great I am, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the first and the last, the Alpha and Omega. You willingly put on flesh to come into this world, to walk as we walk, just so you could put yourself on the cross, shed your blood, give your body, so that we could be redeemed. All for the very reason of your love for us. You did not want heaven without us. And we thank you for that, Lord Jesus. We thank you for that because that means that through you, we are sanctified, we are made righteous, and we have eternity in glory with you. So, Lord, as we come before you today, we ask you to remind us, Father, in our hearts and our spirits, to have eyes that see and ears that hear, so we can see the truth and understand what it is you want for us today, Father, in this place, here and now. We ask you to remind us that what we should be doing, Father, is not seeking our wants, seeking our kingdoms, but, Lord, seeking your kingdom, desiring your will be done more than anything else. What you want done here and now, let that be glorified. Let that be pushed. Let your ideals, the ideals you've given to us in your word, stand strong and firm here and now. So I thank you for my brothers and sisters here who are coming to serve you, Father. And we ask you, Lord, to remind us that what we do, it is not about us, it's not to glorify ourselves, but it's to lift you on high, to glorify you, to bring honor, and to move your kingdom forward here on this earth. In the name of Jesus, we all said, amen.
Thank you. That was very beautiful, Dr. Gray. Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to do the pledge of allegiance here. So Valerie, co-founder Red America First, will do the pledge of allegiance. Thank you so much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that, Valerie. Now we're going to call on Leslie Mahan. She is the Oklahoma State Director for Red America First, and she's going to do the national anthem for us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley and Valerie. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Amazing job.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.
As always. So what an amazing way to start the interview tonight with retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor. How are you tonight? Thank you for coming back to #Town Hall. Thank you for coming tonight.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Just please don't ask me to sing.
Me neither.
I couldn't have done that job. That was wonderful.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and start with our questions here. Colonel Macgregor, your last analysis warned that the Ukraine conflict is dragging America deeper into a non-proxy war that's bleeding our treasury and troops. What immediate steps should President Trump take to force a realistic peace deal, cut off Zelensky's blank check funding, and redirect resources to securing our southern border instead of Europe's endless entanglements?
Well, I'll give you the same advice that I gave President Trump. And I told him that the first thing he needed to do was to announce that we will no longer support the war in Ukraine against Russia, that we want an immediate end to the conflict, and we're prepared to sit down and host whatever conference is necessary in order to bring the people together to sort through this. But first and foremost, we are ceasing any further support to this corrupt and criminal regime in Kiev. The only thing they've managed to accomplish is mass murder of their own population in a war that was easily avoided.
Right.
And unfortunately, President Trump has been badly advised, I would argue, by people telling him that he can't do that. No, he absolutely can do it, and he needs to do it.
Yeah.
It's not just a function of wasting billions of dollars. Washington does that very well on its own anyhow. It's a question of putting us in opposition to Russia when there is no reason for us to be in opposition to Russia. You know, for some reason, there are people in Washington who liked the Soviet Union. The neocons seem to have been comfortable with them. Now that Russia is an Orthodox Christian country that rests on the foundation of Orthodox Christianity, they're very unhappy. They're unhappy because Russia has a national identity. Russia is defending its borders, and Russia is doing what we would do if we had an enemy force building a Mexican army for the purpose of reconquering Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Southern California. I think we would act exactly as the Russians have done. We would destroy that force.
That's right.
And that's what they've done. So I don't know why President Trump continues to waste his time on this matter, to be perfectly blunt. He ought to divorce himself from it and say, I'm out. America doesn't want any part of this. We want to normalize relations with Russia. There's no reason why we should not. And we urge our European allies to follow suit. On the other hand, if they want to go it alone, and we all know they can't, then they may do so. But we have just taken terrible steps. We've offended people, the Russians. We don't seem to understand that most of the world is actually aligned with Russia on this matter, because they live in various parts of the world where they have hostile borders, and they understand exactly what that kind of threat means. We should understand it as well. All you have to do is look south of the Rio Grande, and if anybody thinks that's friendly territory, they should have their heads examined. It isn't. So, the bottom line is, I said that's what he should do. It's what he should do now, and walk away from this disaster.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for that. I'm going to have two questions back to back. The first one, I want to kind of dig deep in the process of our open borders that's the Democrats had for a long time, Biden, Harris regime. And we see a lot of sleeper cells, we want to call it, where these radicals, jihads and stuff like this. And I'm hearing it spreading in various cities and with New York City falling. Just wanted to get your guidance and if you heard if there's any planned attacks coming in December coming up. Over.
Well, first of all, let's go back to Tulsi Gabbard. Shortly after she took over as the director of national intelligence, she actually went down to the border, down in Texas, and there was a news conference, and she stepped forward and she said, open borders has allowed millions of people to enter the United States, people about whom we know absolutely nothing. And these people were not only encouraged to come through the open border, they were then given monetary support, transportation to various parts of the country, once again, without knowing anything about them. If anything, I think you could make a very convincing argument that President Biden committed treason against the American people, because it was not in our national security interest to do this. Even Bill Clinton, who was caught unawares at the time, was asked, well, what do you think about what's happened? And they started listing the criminal acts, the murders connected with drugs in some cases, or child trafficking, or just wanton slaughter. You know the names of these people, these young girls who were killed pointlessly. And he said, well, this wouldn't have happened if we'd vetted these people. Well, thank you. Then who is ultimately responsible for this disaster? And that the person responsible was President Biden and his administration. They seem to have celebrated this. And right now, they and their supporters are doing everything in their power to keep these people inside our country. The only criticism I have for President Trump is that he has no strategy to deal with this. I know Tom Homan. He's a nice man. He's a good man. What's the strategy, Tom? Where are the resources? Who's going to round these people up? And I keep trying to tell people that historically, two things are true. Number one, the United States Army guarded our borders. We act as though this is some sort of terrible thing if we have soldiers on the border. From 1846 to 1948, the Army guarded the Mexican border. It also guarded the Canadian border. So what's wrong with putting troops on the border, particularly when you know that the customs officers have been bought off by the cartels? People turn a blind eye and let people and children and money and drugs and everything else go through those legal ports of entry. That has not stopped. The second thing is, if you're going to go after these criminals inside the United States, and you're going to go after the illegals that we did not invite, who are not legally in this country, you use the army. After the crash of 1929, Herbert Hoover directed the deportation of 9 million Mexicans. Not because he disliked Mexicans. They were not here legally. He simply said, look, if I don't get these people out of here, Americans are very shortly going to demand the jobs they're doing because Americans need the jobs.
Right.
Who came in to do that? It was the United States Army. FDR deported another 3.5 million. Harry Truman, 2.1 million. General Eisenhower, as president, 1.3 million. Now, let's stop the nonsense about this is inhumane. The only inhumane act is keeping these people here when we can't afford it, when our own population doesn't have adequate medical care, when our own population is struggling to get jobs and put food on the table. Everybody keeps saying, well, unemployment is way down. How many people have left the workforce because they couldn't find jobs? Let's tell the truth. It's much higher than 4%. Anybody out there can point to people that haven't been able to find work for years. And then on top of that, President Trump has allowed these H-1Bs now from Saudi Arabia to come into the country. It's outrageous.
Absolutely not America first, is it?
No, that's a betrayal of everybody that voted him into office. And also, it's this big lie. Well, we don't have the talent and the human capital to do the job. Nonsense. I have a son who was in the IT business for 5, 6 years. He was making very good money, and he told me repeatedly, we don't need any of these foreigners here. We have all sorts of Americans who can step in and do these jobs. But you have to pay an American a living wage. For what it costs one American, they can hire 3 software engineers from India. Well, I'm not here, and neither should you be, to line, Elon Musk's pockets or Bill Gates's pockets or anybody else in the high-tech industry. I don't give a damn about them. Pay the Americans for a fair day's work. Pay them good wages so that they can live decently. Stop bringing in foreigners as cheap labor. The lie
Absolutely.
that we don't have people is got to be killed. And President Trump should apologize to the American people for telling that lie.
So do you think we're going to have surprise attacks coming from these groups?
It depends. A lot of these people that come here, they're here for one reason and only one reason. They didn't come to become American citizens. Let's not be ridiculous. Look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look at Patterson, New Jersey. These places have become fortresses of Islam. And people in these areas are practicing Sharia law. They are practicing polygamy. Now, why did they come here? Well, they came here to make money, to live well, to improve their standard of living. But they didn't come here to be us. And they're not about to become us. I was talking recently to an American who is a Muslim. And he said, Doug, any Muslim that comes to this country and says they should implement Sharia law should be arrested on the spot and deported. That's not why you come to the United States. You come to the United States because of the laws that we have, the equality before the law, the freedom of movement, all of these things. That's why you come here to become an American. You don't come here to bring Sharia law or your culture from some other part of the world with you. Unfortunately, since I would say certainly over the last 20 years, we've been witnessing exactly that. These entities that are foreign and alien to us springing up. And when an American points to it and says, this is wrong, oh, well, you're a racist, you're a bigot. No, he's an American who's pointing to something on American soil that is not American. Everybody else assimilated and became part of the country. And you know something, what a society cannot assimilate, it eventually destroys, or it goes out of existence.
Wow. In your September Substack briefing, you argued that neocons have already decided on another disastrous war with Iran, risking American lives for Israeli, hegemony. How can a Trump administration dismantle this deep state warmongering, prioritize energy independence at home, and avoid all of these escalations that could ignite World War III over foreign oil grabs? What say you?
Well, I had the privilege of interacting with President Trump during the latter part of his administration. And I have never made it a secret that I actually like the man. I mean, he's a pleasant person. This is not some sort of ogre that doesn't listen to people or treats people badly privately. Absolutely not. I never saw any evidence for that. But I think we have to accept something as fact now, and that is that he would not now be president if the 7 or 8 top Zionist billionaires in the United States had not decided that he should have the White House. And I think he made agreements before he was elected that if he were given the opportunity to be president, that he would fulfill certain obligations, and those obligations were to Israel. Now, that's wrong, but it's happened. It's unambiguous. When you look at something like what's happening today to the Palestinians, and people forget that 15% of the Palestinians who are being murdered or driven out of their homes are Christians. And in Gaza is one of the oldest Christian churches in the world. Now, they're Catholics, some are Protestants, very few, and there are Orthodox Christians. The same thing is happening in the West Bank. By the way, some of the oldest Christian churches in the world exist in Syria, and they are being destroyed, and Christians there are being killed. But apparently that suits Mr. Netanyahu, and so we say and do nothing. We actually welcome Jolani, the former Al-Qaeda and ISIS commander, into Washington, put him into a suit and pretend he's a civilized human being. This man is a criminal. Why are we welcoming him to the White House? And by the way, the forces that he has control of are now killing Christians too. So, I mean, the whole thing disturbs me because that's not the Donald Trump I knew in 2020 at all. This is a different person. And he's obviously constrained in what he can and cannot do. And I think it all goes back to the promises and deals that were made before he was elected.
Wow. So those that are watching the live stream, we open up to our panel members to be able to engage with Colonel Macgregor. That's coming up.
Okay. In your recent Substack with Glenn Dyson, powerfully declares that the era of unchallenged Western dominance is over, brought down by arrogant miscalculations in Ukraine and the self-inflicted wounds of deindustrialization at home. What bold America First reforms do you advocate to rebuild United States manufacturing / wasteful foreign aid and position America as a self-reliant superpower rather than a global policeman begging for scraps from China and Russia?
Well, look, we're not begging for scraps. We're trying to bully people into doing what we want them to do. That's the problem. The Russians want to do business with us. The Chinese do. Now, let's take a break here for a minute and let me just digress to China. I have been in Northeast Asia and I've done business there. And I had Korean and Japanese businessmen ask me, Colonel Macgregor, why are you Americans so stupid? And I said, what do you mean? Said, do you see any Chinese in our universities? Do you see any Chinese in our laboratories? Do you see our Chinese anywhere in any government installation? I said, well, I guess not. He said, of course not. The Chinese are doing what they've done for 2,000 years. If you let them in, they will steal whatever is there and send it back to China. That's what they do. Well, what does this go back to? First of all, why are we letting 600,000 Chinese students into the country? And for Donald Trump to sit there and say, well, if I don't allow this to happen, these colleges will go out of business. And I was so proud of Laura Ingraham because she said so. If these people cannot sustain themselves economically, then perhaps those colleges should go out of business. Perhaps we have too many for the size of our population right now. And I don't mind telling you that lots of young men and women go to college for 4 years, come out and can't get a job because education is not a path to employment. My point is, everything is out of whack. If you're about America first, then you're about preserving, protecting what is our country. So you don't let foreigners in that you know are going to steal from you. By the way, we've had a big problem with that with the Israelis as well. And they're not the only ones. There are lots of people that come to this country with the wrong intent, with the worst intention of stealing and taking whatever they can get and sending it home. So being America first, that has to stop. Send these foreigners out. If you're serious about protecting the country, don't let any more Chinese students in, and figure out how many you've got now that you don't need, and stop the nonsense. I mean, if you're serious about it, don't go to war with China. That's a dumb idea. We don't need to go to war with a major power over this, but we need to make it very clear what we will not tolerate inside our own country. And by the way, the Chinese are accustomed to this. The Vietnamese have thrown all the Chinese out of Vietnam. The Indonesians threw all the Chinese out of Indonesia. This is an old story. We've got to wake up and smell the coffee and understand that we have an obligation, first and foremost, to our citizens. If you're going to provide health care at the least expensive level you can, then get rid of all the people that are freeloading that are not Americans. Get them out of here. Send them out. Let them go home to where they have luxurious medical support, right? No, that's not our problem. We should be concerned about Americans getting the health care. And we need to reform a lot of these things. I mean, health care is outrageously expensive here.
It is.
And we're not getting much return on our investment. That's the bad news. I could take you to Finland or Germany or Austria, any number of places. You'd find it's infinitely better care at much lower cost. Now, is it perfect? No, but we need to do better. That's where we should be focused. We should be focused on what is the standard of living inside the United States. And we want businesses and we want industries to be competitive. Now, we embarked upon this massive tariff offensive. Tariffs usually are implemented to protect industry. In other words, to nurture the growth and development in the industrial base. We've used tariffs as a sledgehammer to allegedly punish everybody we don't like. Well, apparently we hate everybody because we treated our friends as well as our competitors and opponents equally. It's insane. It's done us unnecessary damage because we live in the 21st century. If you treat people badly, they don't get in line and say, well, we'll wait until you like us again. They go elsewhere. And where do they go? They can go to China. They go to India. They can go to Europe, any number of different places. They don't have to come here. We live in a different world now. We're no longer the great superpower that no one can compare to. We are a great power. In many ways, we are still a superpower. But we don't have to be in a permanent state of hostility to everybody who may not agree with us. There's something that President Trump, I think, has not come to terms with. You can't turn to any foreign country and expect that country to move beyond the limits of its interests. Now, he was just in Japan, and the Japanese want to do business with us. They've done business with us for years, but they made it perfectly clear that when it comes to buying cheap oil and gas, they're going to buy it from Russia. It's right next door. It's very inexpensive. That's not because they don't like us, but that's what they're going to do. By the way, they've also said, we don't like the Chinese either, but we're not prepared to go to war with them. So don't come here and talk to us about going to war with China. This is true all over Asia. We got to get out of this mindset that you're either with us or against us. Remember George Bush? He gave his great speech after 2001 and said, you're either with us or against us. It's a very dumb idea. The British Empire was around a lot longer than we've existed. And one of the things that they did well, and they made many mistakes, we don't need to dwell on that. The biggest one of all was not granting us home rule, and we'd still been in the British Empire. It would have helped them enormously. But the bottom line is the British Empire practiced economy of enemies. They've said, well, there are five groups of people in this part of the world. Who can we get along with? Well, finally, you discovered that out of the five, there's only one hard-headed individual that refuses to do business with you. So you isolate that one, you do business with everybody else, you cultivate them. And eventually the rest abandon the one who does not do business. You don't just say blanket, either you're with us or against us, because you understand that not every single issue is going to be viewed the same way by other countries. This is the sort of hangover from the Cold War. We've left that world. So we have to see the world differently. I'll tell you something. You talk about Christianity. We could use a good dose of it in the conduct of our foreign policy. Because
Yes.
I don't know of any teachings in the New Testament that tell us it's a good thing to murder people and we're going to support you as you do it. I don't see that. I don't see any evidence that, whether you like Muslims or not, or Christians or not, doesn't matter. They're human beings. Do we want to be part of the mass murder and mass expulsion? No, of course not. And remember, there's a big difference between people that showed up and came into our country illegally and have refused to leave, and in many cases have committed crimes and are now dependent upon our largesse. Big difference between that and people that have lived in the place for 2,000 years and are suddenly being told, get out or we'll kill you. It's wrong. I just can't wrap my head around it because I've spent time in Israel and I like the Israelis and I worked with the Israeli Defense Force. I just can't understand it. I've heard all the rationales for it, but it's just wrong. So, I think it was Lincoln in so many words said the challenge in American foreign policy is to link the contingencies of power, in other words, the needs of power, with the principles of justice. We've thrown the principles of justice out of the window. And we're looking at this so-called transactional administration. I'm so sick of hearing that word. You show up, you offer enough money, you can have what you want. What in the hell is that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So you warned us about America's 8-day missile stockpile, nuclear or nothing vulnerability hits hard amid the ongoing Ukraine aid. What fiscal conservative measures would you push as a defense advisor? Because, the Pentagon, I'm hearing a lot of budget cuts are happening, right? So we need to stop the endless NATO handouts. We just got to stop that. But what do you think about that?
I think President Trump has discovered the hard way that you cannot print missiles the way you print money. It takes time to build complex weapon systems, and it takes a lot of time to turn on missiles. I was told the other day that Raytheon, that builds the Patriot missile system, as well as others, has now said they'll produce 600 a year instead of just 420. Well, let me tell you what that means in practical terms. If you're trying to stop incoming missiles from destroying your country or infrastructure or forces, every time the enemy fires a missile in your direction, you fire 2 missiles at the incoming missile. Sometimes you fire 3. So do a little math. You've got 600 missiles. Let's say best case, you're going to shoot 2 missiles at every incoming missile. How long does it take for 1,000 missiles to overwhelm your system? It'll be over in 3 days. You've got nothing left. And that's in effect what was told to President Trump. And President Trump says, well, you need to build more missiles. Well, you can't surge quickly. You don't have the manufacturing base for it. You see what the Russians did in the intervening years since the Soviet Union fell apart is that they put their manufacturing base for the military industrial requirements into sort of suspended animation. They didn't dismantle it. They didn't destroy it. They just put it on hold. So when they needed it, they could send in people and rapidly ramp it up. Well, what we've done since 1991 is that we've gone in the other direction, down, down, down. We have reduced the numbers of people who actually deploy to fight. In terms of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, they're way down. We still have 44 four-star generals. We never dismantled the overhead, the useless headquarters. We made no changes there at all. They're talking about it, but nothing's really happened yet. And no strategy exists how to guide that and manage it so that we don't hurt our military capability. But you've got to make a decision. What's your top priority? It ought to be the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that you're going to employ in a war, right? Not this massive overhead of generals. That's number one. Number two, you better look at your military industrial base, your manufacturing capability. We went from, say, dozens of defense firms down to just 5. Well, when we did that, that put those 5 firms in the driver's seat. If you don't give the firm enough money for a particular program, says, well, I'm sorry, we're going to have to shutter the assembly line in Ohio because you're not providing enough money. See, when we had a number of different firms, it was competitive. You had people that would stand up and bid to do something, and then you would give them the contract and they would execute. Right now, with only 5 firms, you're stuck. They are effectively state-owned enterprises. They've got the Senate and the House under control. By the way, the same thing's true in the media industry. 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, we had 50 media companies. Today we have 6. And guess who owns them? Zionist billionaires. And so what does that mean for the pre-digested news that is then fed into the mainstream media? Well, I think everybody knows the answer to that question. Those need to be broken up. This is presidential business. This is where the president needs to step in and say, we're going to break these up. We need to break up the high-tech firms. How many do we have? How many do we need? Well, we don't need 3 or 4 that then dictate to us what's going to happen. That's a disaster. All of these things need to happen. This is America First business. It's dealing with the problems here at home to elevate our prosperity, to lift us out of the doldrums that we've been in. You can't just stand up there and say, this is the hottest country in the world. We're the greatest. Listen, President Trump, I'm an American. Don't have to tell me that my country is a great place. I believe that. That's not the issue. The issue is, what are you doing to make it greater? Because it's not great enough right now for most Americans.
On that note, Colonel Douglas Macgregor, we're opening it up with our panel members. They got 30 seconds to ask you a question, and then you got like 2 minutes to respond because we got to try to get a lot of people to ask you questions. We're going to start with Teresa Wiggins. She is our pillar Christian leader of Red America First. Go ahead, Teresa, with your question. Thank you.
Colonel Macgregor, thank you so much for coming tonight and giving us your time. My question is what is your response to the 6 people that are on the news that are telling the military that it's okay for them to not listen to the duties that they're being told that,
Oh, this is a very important question, and it's being misinterpreted by a lot of people. I listened earlier to a discussion between John Mearsheimer and Andrew Napolitano. I respect both of those men enormously, but it's misinterpreted. They are saying, well, you should not obey an illegal order. Well, that's patently obvious. All of us that have served in the armed forces for any length of time have gone through the instruction, the socialization, the training, and we understand what an illegal order is. That's not really what these people are talking about. But let me give you an example of an illegal order and how it was handled. Back in 2003, we had a 3-star, Lieutenant General Sanchez, not one of my favorite people, but he was the second in command when we went into Iraq. And he came upon in a hallway in a building in Baghdad a number of recently apprehended prisoners who were unruly. There were a couple of them that were unruly and were giving the military police a hard time. And he turned around and said to the staff sergeant in charge, "Shoot that man! Shoot that man!" And the staff sergeant said, "It's all right, sir. We'll get him under control. We know what we're doing." And he said, "No, I want you to shoot that man right now." And the staff sergeant said, "No, sir. I'm not going to shoot this prisoner. We'll get him under control." And indeed, that staff sergeant in the military police did that. So there was no illegal order because it wasn't followed. Because it wasn't followed, there was no murder. because we don't shoot prisoners in our custody. That staff sergeant was right. The three-star general was wrong. Now, that's one of the few instances that I can recall when I was on active duty of something like that happening, and I was in for 28 years. No, I think what we're dealing with from the people on the Hill is something else. Even though they will not admit to it, I think they are trying to deliberately undermine the authority of the president. And he is the commander in chief. He is the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. He commands the armed forces. Now, I am not someone who thinks that we should be intervening in Venezuela. I think there are lots of things that we can do short of going to war that would meet our requirements and needs. But I'm not the president. And if I were on active duty and I was ordered to go into Venezuela, I would go in. I would do as I was told to do. I was in the regular army. I went into action several places under different occasions. We did not take a vote about what we would or wouldn't do. There was no debate. We were given an order. I didn't question its legality. It came from the commander in chief. Under the law of the Constitution, as the commander in chief, he has the right to order me into action at home and abroad. And I think that's what's very sinister. These are Democratic members of Congress who are effectively trying to encourage soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines not to obey orders from the president. Didn't say illegal, just orders. I have not seen President Trump issue any illegal orders. And I watch that very carefully. I mean, I may not like a lot of the things that he does. I'm sometimes disappointed by the way he expresses himself. But the notion that he has deliberately ordered anybody to do anything that is not legal is nonsense.
Wow.
This is seditious, frankly. It's on the edge of sedition.
Well, thank you for that, Colonel. We're going to go to Oklahoma. Leslie Mahan is up next. Then we're going to go to Rob, Ohio, Ron, Nevada, Larry, Texas, Megeso, Hawaii, Christian, California. Please, guys, 30-second question, 2-minute response. Let's go.
Colonel Macgregor, thank you so much for coming back on the show. My question to you, sir, is there is so much misinformation that's being thrown around on both sides right now. What do you say is like the best way for us to get the correct information? I yield. Thank you.
Well, I'm quick to yield back to others who may want to answer that question. My approach is to turn to alternative sources of information and news. If I had paid attention to anything coming out of the mainstream media, then I would have been sadly misinformed from the very beginning as soon as this Ukraine war began. But I dug and I found other sources on the ground in Ukraine, as well as in Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, Germany, and Russia, where I could put together a more accurate picture. At one point, I had a gentleman who actually called me with a cell phone through another individual from a hospital in Ukraine. This is back in the fall of 2023. And he wanted to tell me what he was seeing because we were promoting the notion that the Ukrainians had just attacked the Russian defenses and won some victory. And he talked about the hospitals overwhelmed with people in the hallways who were badly wounded, who were dying for lack of treatment. He talked about ambulances that would not pick anybody else up off the battlefield unless you paid them to do it. And he said, we're running out of blood. This is a catastrophe. This has been a huge defeat. Well, that wasn't the first time or the last time that I was called like that. There are people out there trying to get the truth out, and you've got to go find it. And then you have to make a choice. You have to decide what you think is reasonable. I can't tell you how to judge what you hear, but you've got to dig beyond what comes out of the mainstream media. That's just useless drivel for the most part.
You have to always peel the onion because there's always an interlining agenda that the mainstream media and our enemy is pushing. So let's go to Ohio now. Drake, Ohio, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Thank you so much. Colonel's getting better to the 2-minute response. Go ahead, Drake. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, sir. Drake Ross from Ohio, as he said. First, I'd like to just mention that a lot of people approach me and say, I think President Trump should do this, and I think that. And, sometimes they're knowledgeable and sometimes not so much. One of the first things I always say to people is, have you seen the classified intel? Of course, they haven't. Okay. I say, you can have an opinion, you can have a thought, granted, okay, but you don't always know what's going on. So I try to give him a little bit of anyone for that matter, some latitude, just like with the Cuban Missile Crisis. A lot of people would say we shouldn't do an embargo. That's mean. Well, here's the satellite photos. So the other part of this, Colonel, is that I think we'd all agree the president's this first year of his term has been tumultuous. Charlie Kirk's assassination, activist judges, you name it, it's been thrown at his administration. Given that, okay, all that I just said, how do you feel that Secretary Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Kane are doing given that backdrop? Thank you, sir. I'm gonna mute now.
The last time that I had an active clearance, top secret, compartmentalized and so forth, was when I was in the Pentagon in November, December, January of 2020, 2021. But I have a lot of experience with intelligence. A lot of the intelligence is wrong, number one. Number two, remember that intelligence is frequently massaged by people in the middle. You'll have someone at a lower level who's a solid analyst, whether he's in the field or she's in the field or she is looking at overhead photography, satellite intelligence. They put together something. Then it goes to the people who are appointees that are just below the presidential and secretarial level. They decide what they're going to send forward. And every administration has agendas. So the truth doesn't usually get to where it needs to go unless the president demands it. Now, you mentioned JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was having such difficulty getting the truth out of the United States Air Force at the time that he actually had people called down to carrier-based air to make flights to ensure that he was getting an accurate picture. And that's not the only time. Henry Kissinger, when he was working for Nixon, became very frustrated because he said, I don't believe these intelligence assessments of the Russians. And I need to know more. And so with Nixon's permission, they brought back the station chiefs from the Central Intelligence Agency in Eastern Europe, Turkey, and Central Asia and China, where we had a station at the time. And they sat down to evaluate the truth, to find out what was really on hand in Russia in terms of its nuclear missile capability and weapon systems and what wasn't. That produced a very different picture from the one that Langley sent over to the president. My point is, you're half right. Most of us don't see all of that intelligence, but having been someone who's seen a lot of it, I can tell you, whatever you do, if you're at the top, you're going to have to dig down lower. You're going to have to go down to lower levels and talk to people and get the truth. One last point. General Marshall, when he was chief of staff of the Army before and during the Second World War, he would ask for a position paper, a 2-page paper explaining what should we do, what's the right course of action, what are your recommendations. And he would get this paper, and then he would turn around and he would say, now I want to see everybody, including the man who wrote the paper. Well, having been in the War Plans Division of the Army Staff, I can tell you those papers are usually written by majors and lieutenant colonels, and I was a lieutenant colonel at the time. And so he would line up the major, the lieutenant colonel, the full colonel, the 1-star, and sometimes the 2-star. And then he would take this paper and he would say to the major at the bottom, show me what you wrote originally and how it was changed. He only had to do that 2 or 3 times. That scared the living hell out of the generals and colonels because they fiddled with it. And what he wanted was straightforward facts and analysis based on facts. Now, we don't have that right now in the building. We have a very, very politically astute group that is providing to the president what they think the president wants. That's not their job.
Very good. Now we're going to go to Texas really fast. We're jumping around. Larry, go ahead with your question. Larry, Texas, and we're getting closer to 2 minutes every answer. Keep going. You guys are doing good.
I'll go real fast. Colonel, thanks so much for being here. I have just a quick question regarding Trump. I see things a little differently. I don't see him as bringing MAGA, but I see him as ushering in the New World Order. I'll list 3 points. First, when you look at Doge did not save us any money. None of it will go into effect because none of it was voted into law. All we saw was Elon Musk grab the data from the IRS, Social Security, and Treasury and send it to Palantir to create a surveillance database on each of us Americans. The tariffs are not being used for business, so to speak. It's being mostly used to force countries to give us their biometric data. And we have multiple reports that capture that. Thirdly, the open borders was designed to increase violence in order to say to the American people, if you want peace, we got to have digital IDs. Remember the Patriot Act back in 9/11. So I don't see Trump being the guy to MAGA, but I see him bringing the New World Order. What am I missing?
Well, I don't think he's bringing anything. The New World Order is being forged right now by BRICS. And right now, Moscow and Beijing are now working with New Delhi and others to manage the chaos in Washington and manage our decline as a great power. So they are the New World Order. We are not. Now, as far as inviting all of these people in to create violence, I think we have to be a little more astute than that. These people were invited in because they were overwhelmingly non-Europeans. And that was the goal, to dilute the core American population. And they've done a very good job of that. And all you have to do is travel around the country. Go to the top 10 cities in the United States today. Look at the demographics. The top 10 cities in terms of population in the United States are majority non-white. Now, nobody is supposed to say that. Well, how did that happen? That didn't happen last year. This has been going on for a long time. And what do you do with that? That becomes a weapon in your arsenal against us, the Americans. Somebody mentioned earlier something about Mondami in New York City. That's the outcome. That outcome has been in the cards for years. We're just reaping the harvest now.
Wow. Rosemarie, our editor-in-chief of magazine for Red America First, is up next. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you very much for your time and joining us on RAF. I have a question regarding the attacks being made on the Venezuelan boats with respect to the fentanyl. And I was wondering what your views are about that. And also, if you would be as kind enough to give us a page for a magazine so that we can put whatever you would like as a message to go out to, all of our viewers and participants.
Okay, well,
Thank you,
first,
Rosemarie.
let me try the first one. The fentanyl is not coming out of Venezuela. I don't know why the president repeats that. In fact, Venezuela's participation in the so-called introduction of illegal drugs into the United States is somewhere around 4%. Thirdly, right now, the cartels in Mexico are actually making more money with human trafficking than they are with drugs. Human beings are worth more than the drugs that they're peddling. When you look at Mexico and the cartels down there, they effectively control that country. I mean, they really do. Mexico is just a narco state. Venezuela is not. Now, Venezuela may not be the perfect liberal democracy, but it's not a narco state. And Maduro, whether you like him or not, is holding that place together. Latin America is not an easy place to live. It's a tough place to govern. And the last thing that I would want to do as an American is to go down there and end up making us responsible for the governing or the governance of Venezuela. So I think you have to look at Mexico, and you have to understand that the fentanyl that's coming up is not being deliberately manufactured by the Chinese to destroy us. The Chinese organized crime syndicates are like anywhere else. They operate on the basis of money. You pay them enough money, they're going to do what they have to make profits. There's a lot of money to be made in fentanyl. The drug problem is inside our country, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to suppress that appetite, and we need much more stringent laws. And I get into trouble because people don't like to hear this, but there was a man named Lee Kuan Yew who created Singapore. And Lee Kuan Yew had a terrible drug problem. He solved it. If you were caught peddling drugs, bringing drugs into Singapore, you were tried in a court of law, and if you were found guilty, you were executed. That's what needs to happen. By the way, I would do the same thing with child traffickers, human traffickers. If you are trafficking children, women into the United States, or trying to capture them and move them out of the United States into Mexico or somewhere else, and you are then tried in a court of law and found guilty, you should be executed. If we don't do these things will not stop.
It's true.
Thank you for that. Rob, Ohio, go with your question, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome back, Colonel. My question is it seems to me that Russia, since day one, has not been trying to win the war with Ukraine. When they first invaded, they didn't turn off their TVs, any electronics. They've just been more or less fighting to hold a position. Why would they do that?
Well, I would say they're doing a little bit more than that now. Put yourself in the position of President Putin, and I think his judgment in this regard was not good. But he believed that the Ukrainian Orthodox Christians and the Russian Orthodox Christians were brothers under the skin. He issued orders initially that they were to avoid as much as possible doing any infrastructure damage and avoid as much as possible killing people. Remember that the areas that they were moving into initially are overwhelmingly Russian. And the Russians, reacted interestingly to the arrival of the Russian troops. They went out and said, well, thank God you're finally here. We never thought you would come to liberate us. And the commanders of the Russian units that were there said, well, we're not staying. We're here, to send a signal that we want change in Ukraine. We want Russians to be treated equally before the law. And you know what the Russians said to the soldiers? Well, then get the hell out of here, because as soon as you leave, the Ukrainian secret police is going to show up and put a bullet through our heads. So you're no damn good to us. It took a while for Putin to figure that out. The second part was he went in with a relatively small force. First of all, the Russian military at that point wasn't that large. The Russian military was really focused on defending its borders. There was no plan to invade the West or attack anybody. So then you have the meeting in Istanbul, and the Russians thought they had a deal because the people in Istanbul said, yeah, we can live with this outcome. And of course, the individual who said that was later executed by the Ukrainian government, the SBU, the secret police. Boris Johnson flies in on behalf of Biden and says, no, don't settle for anything. You have the entire weight, power, and influence of the United States and NATO behind you. You're going to win. You need to fight. So they threw the whole peace business out of the window. Then the general staff sat down with Putin and said, look, if you're going to do this, we need a much larger army. We need to take this very seriously, because the Ukrainian force arrayed against them had been training for years at great expense to the American taxpayer, the British taxpayer, the French taxpayer, and they were extremely well equipped. He said, if we're going to win this, you've got to change your modus operandi. So then it went to a defense, a strategic defense, which was very effective. And the idea was we need this strategic defense until we build it up. And that's what happened in 2022 and 2023. And the Ukrainians, thanks to the terrible advice our senior military leaders gave them, impaled themselves on this defense routinely, and 1 million people were killed unnecessarily. But my point is that when you learn about this, and I didn't understand this at the time, I was in a state of complete shock when I saw the initial move into Ukraine. I said, what are these people doing? But when you find that out, you begin to understand that there were a lot of assumptions made up front. Now, the Russian generals didn't like those assumptions, but they clicked their heels, saluted smartly, and went off and did the best they could. But President Putin had to change his mind. When he began to change his mind, you see a tremendous improvement. But there's something else that Putin has made clear repeatedly inside Russia to the forces. I do not want a war with the United States or NATO. Therefore, we will not have any lightning offensives, sudden deep attacks all the way to the river that might send off alarm bells all over Europe and in Washington. I don't want to precipitate a war. And so we will move carefully. Secondly, I don't want to kill Russians unnecessarily. I'm not going to sacrifice Russian lives pointlessly. If it takes us longer to systematically destroy the Ukrainian armed forces, that's what we'll do.
Douglas Macgregor, thank you so much for coming on tonight, Town Hall. How was your second experience with us? How was it tonight?
Well, I'm sorry that we didn't have more time for questions.
No, it's okay. We're gonna squeeze you in probably in January if you're up for it.
Well, if I'm still here, I'll be happy to do that.
Oh, outstanding!
You never know.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight, and we're gonna definitely schedule you back on. And it was definitely a good, engaging discussion tonight. I
want to thank Leslie, Larry, and Rob for their good questions. I appreciate it. They're important questions that had to be answered, and I'm not sure I gave you the complete answers. I did the best I could in the time's constraints.
Oh, you did a great job, Colonel, and we're going to have you come back. What did you think of Valerie's questions?
No, don't ask us.
Valerie is delightful.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
I appreciated that, but that was an easier one to hit out of the park. The one that Larry asked and Rob's questions, those are really, really important, and they deserve a lot more time and attention. By the way, I had dinner with Peter Thiel. Sometime we'll talk about that, Larry.
Oh, wow. I want to hear about that too, because we don't trust Peter Thiel on this platform. So,
well, there are good reasons to feel concerned.
And thank you so much for coming tonight. We're definitely going to have you come back, sir. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
So transitioning to our second interview of the night, we have Charlotte O'Hara, Kansas gubernatorial candidate. Oh my God, thank you for coming tonight. Tell us a little bit about you, your hobbies. Where did you grow up? I'm assuming Kansas, but you never know. Thank you for coming.
Okay, well, we'll start with where I grew up. Actually, my roots in Kansas is extremely deep. My grandfather, John O'Hara, came to Kansas in 1869.
Oh, wow.
And he settled northwest of Blue Mound, which is in Lynn County. So I'm in Johnson County, which that's a suburb of Kansas City. Then there's Miami County to the south, and then Lynn County. So that was where my grandfather, my great-grandfather settled. And then I was raised in Bourbon County, which was one more county south. So I was raised about 70 miles south of where I live now. And so grew up on a farm, learned hard work, milking cows by hand, doing all sorts of farm work, chickens and pigs and row crops and hay and cattle. And it's just the whole farm life that I was raised. I tell people I apprenticed on the farm for 18 years. And actually I was wanting to take the farm over. I was the youngest. And my dad said no. So I went to college and graduated from KU with a degree in education, and then a few years later became a general contractor.
Nice.
So then I got into politics a little over 30 years ago. I ran for a school board first, and then in 2002 I ran for chair of the Johnson County Commission. Was not successful, but then I was the 3rd district chair for the Republican Party in 2008 and 2009. Then I served in the Kansas House in 2011 and 2012, learned a ton of stuff there. And then I was on the Johnson County Commission. We have 630,000 people here in Johnson County. We're about 20% of the population of the state of Kansas. And so I served from 2021 to 2025, learned a whole bunch more. And now I am running for governor. I have 5 kids, 7 grandkids, 2 dogs, and a horse.
Nice.
Wow. What's your horse's name?
Gabby.
Gabby?
Okay.
And your dog?
And then, so horseback riding, I love to ride my bike. I've done several long distance bike tours. And then I'm also a poet and a musician.
Wow.
Wow.
Got a lot of hobbies. That's great.
Pretty busy.
Yeah.
And then
Well-
I have I have a company with my oldest son. We have a small manufacturing company, and then I own a couple of industrial buildings, and you know, that's just what I do.
That's awesome. But you sound really busy. It's awesome.
I like to be busy, and yes, I am busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're going to be a great candidate for governor. So,
Well, we have an amazing amount of issues in the state of Kansas, and I know everyone looks at Kansas. We're in the center of the country. Oh, you know, it's red, 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 red. No, 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 no. We are the high tax point on the prairie. We have basically abortion on demand. We had 19,647 abortions in 2023. 15,000, over 15,000 were out-of-state women. And the most shocking was that we had 36 abortions on children 10 to 14.
oh my
23
gosh.
of those,
Wow.
23 of those were from out of state. And obviously, I mean, if it appears that we are being complicit in this child sex trafficking.
Yeah, it sounds like it from
Yeah,
that
it's
information.
really amazing.
Yeah, that really is. Well, we'll get started with our questions we have for you.
Okay.
Your vision for the 3 R's in freeing Kansas schools from bureaucratic overreach strikes at the heart of conservative parental rights. What specific steps would you take as governor to dismantle failed federal education mandates and restore local control, ensuring Kansas kids get back to basics without the progressive indoctrination plaguing our classrooms?
Well, you are absolutely right. In the state of Kansas and across the country, because of the federal mandates, we are under an avalanche of failure. Reading and math scores are atrocious. The answer to that from our State Board of Education was, we'll just renorm the tests so that our students look better. But we've been renorming tests in Kansas for 30 years. And that's just what they do, is when they're not successful, they renorm the test.
Wow.
And so absolutely, to cut the strings from federal mandates means that you cannot take federal money. People have to understand that if you take federal money and pre-reduced lunches, that's federal money, and you're going to be caught up in all the strings of the federal requirements. So and when I was in the House in 2011 and 2012, I begged my colleagues to cut the ties with these federal funds, because every time you take a federal dollar, you are selling your state sovereignty. There's just no ifs or ands about it, just what you do. So anyway, I was not successful in getting much traction on that. And I think finally people are understanding that we have to do that if we want to save our schools. I would close the State Department of Education. We're spending over $30 million.
Well, wait a minute. That's my question. So let's talk about that. Drawing from your KU education background and experience as a mother of 5, what practical steps can faith-driven parents take right now to reclaim their local schools and ensure the next generation of little Americans grow up with the founding principles that our country was founded on?
Okay, number one, parents have a lot of power, and they don't realize that they can opt out of so many, I mean, almost everything that the public school is offering. They can opt out of their kids having to have a computer. They can opt out of any they can opt out of any sex education. They can, I mean, they can opt out of so many things if they would just start doing that. And the number one, just refuse the personal computer, because they're being tracked on those computers. And study after study shows that kids on computers, it's very unhealthy. We need to get back to basics, reading, phonics, writing, cursive, arithmetic, please. No Common Core boxes that totally confuse the kids. I was a homeschooler.
Oh, yeah.
Education, kids learning is their natural response to their environment. And what we do to our kids is just absolutely, it's immoral. It really is.
Yeah, I agree.
In your powerful takedown of the Wichita, globalist love-a-thon, featuring Klaus Schwab's great reset rhetoric, you rightly call out how Kansas is being targeted as a laboratory for one world government schemes. What bold executive actions do you plan to implement as governor to shield that? Because I'm here on this platform, we tell everybody that they're trying to, make the world unaffordable, so we can't own anything and we're going to like it. And we have to eat the bugs too. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Well, number one, unfortunately, in the state of Kansas, we have a lot of corporate welfare. And that means that we are underwriting all of these huge industries, the wind industry, the solar industry, the AI data centers, Panasonic, lithium batteries. We sent $829 million of Kansas state taxpayers' money down to that. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And these tax incentives is what will finance this World Economic Forum idea of taking over Kansas. That because all of these industries that they want more transmission lines, they want more green energy, the list goes on and on and on. And the problem is that we're subsidizing them. So it's like the Kansas taxpayers is going to be paying for this takeover. So absolutely, we have to get rid of corporate welfare. If they don't have the trough to drink out of, they're not going to be so willing to come to Kansas. And I will fight them tooth and nail legislation. I'll give you an example. We have a Chinese company in New Century Airport, which is in Johnson County. And as a county commissioner, I was the only one that voted against a tax incentive. They are only paying 30 cents a square foot for this building. This was in June of 2023. It's 2.5 years later. That building is still empty. Why did they buy it? What are they doing? No one knows. But that is what is happening in Kansas. It's really unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We have a company, it's Sinano, that is a subsidiary of a Chinese company, and they have ties with the Chinese Communist Party, and yep, right in the middle of Kansas, they're here.
Yeah. Well, you guys you're a big banking out there in Kansas.
I'm sorry, what?
You're big banking. Like, isn't there a lot of banking companies and mortgage companies and stuff like that in Kansas?
We're really not known as a financial center in Kansas, but I mean, obviously we have a lot of banks, regional banks, community banks. We really need to get back to community banks. That's really, really important. Yeah. That's where the local folks can find financing for their projects.
Yeah. In your newsletter, Who Will Weep? It warns of the tears shed by families crushed under government failures and cultural erosion. How will your governorship channel the righteous anger into conservative policies that rebuild strong Kansas communities, honor our Judeo-Christian heritage, and ensure no more families weep over lost opportunities or eroded freedoms?
Oh boy, well, again, getting the local control back to the schools. And when I've gone and I've talked to the local communities, a lot of them in Western Kansas, They go, well, and down in Winfield, well, what are you going to do to save our community? And I'm going, it's not going to be the state that's going to save you. What's going to save you is your own initiative. And you're going to have to figure out how to make your community where people want to come. And I'll give you a great example. St. Mary's that is north and west of Topeka. It is such a success story, and it's a center of the Latin Mass community in that area. And during COVID, they built a brand new church that cost over $42 million, and they paid cash for it. They paid cash. And that community is absolutely vibrant. There's a lot of homegrown industries there, and they're not looking for government handouts. And it's manufacturing, it's good paying jobs, and it's a success story. Now down in Bourbon County, where I was raised, there's a Catholic classical education school for boys down there, and it's a type of very experiential type of school. They have a farm. They're teaching the boys how to milk cows. They start them out hand milking, and then they graduate them up to milkers. And I mean, they are hands-on learning farm skills, and it's wonderful.
Great.
And then the curriculum is great. But that is a magnet that there's kids coming from all over the United States in the school that's just outside of Fort Scott. And Fort Scott has had a long decline in population, but these are the kinds of things that will really bring people back into the community.
That's great. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this erosion of our morals has been going on for a long time. I just finished a book, Thomas Merton, The 7-Story Mountain.
Okay.
And it's STOREY. And he talks about how he's at Columbia University in the 30s. There's communists are active there.
Wow.
And the moral degradation has been going on for a long, long time. So we just have to stand up and say no more. DEI, woke agenda absolutely has to be gone. I mean, on the county commission in Johnson County, our chairman and one of the other commissioners, they sponsored and helped a drag queen show in our small town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and our chairman took his 2 kids to this.
Oh my gosh.
Even worse, it was held in a former Catholic church.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's supposed to be, but this is child friendly. This is friendly, a drag queen show.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable what's happening. And the other thing is that people have to go to city council meetings. They have to go to school board meetings. They have to go to the community college meetings. I was talking to a young man down in Winfield when I was there for a forum, and he worked for Turning Point, and he was talking about at the community college there that they were having terrible problems with the woke agenda. And I'm going,
yeah.
No, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. And, you know, I pulled my kids out of public schools over, like 35 years ago. Wow. I know. And my family was very much into education. Aunts were teachers, and my dad was on the local school board. My brother was a president of a community college. And when I looked around and I went, I can't send my kids to these schools. I was going, if they are losing me,
yeah,
it's real problems.
Right.
That was 35 years ago. And I mean, I never imagined that it could be this bad.
Yeah.
But it is.
Right. Yeah.
Well, with election integrity under constant attack from the left, your X marks the spot. Is something that's drawing a lot of attention from your experiences. What concrete reforms would you champion as governor to fortify all this fraud? Because really, we got to stop the machines and we got to stop the mail-in ballots. What say you?
Better ID.
Yeah, I've written several. I have written several articles on this, and the latest probably you don't know about is that the mayor in Coldwater, Kansas, this is in western southwestern Kansas. The mayor of Coldwater is not a U.S. citizen, and he's been voting since the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So voter integrity has really taken on a new level of attention. Our Attorney General, Chris Kobach, has announced charges filed against this gentleman. And the Secretary of State just goes, wow, I just never imagined that there were any issues. And this is Scott Schwab, who's also running for governor. And he actually required that the 2020 ballots in Johnson County, which were under investigation from the Johnson County Sheriff, Sheriff Hayden, he ordered those ballots to be burnt, not burnt, but destroyed in the spring of 2024. And Chris Kobach wrote him a letter begging him not to. The sheriff said, hey, if it's a storage issue, we can storm it in our evidence room. Nope, had to destroy him. They destroyed him. They destroyed him. I voted against appointing the judges to watch the destruction because I was trying to delay it any way that I could, but of course I was the only vote. So yeah, it's a mess. But when I vote by paper ballot, and I put it in the special packet for hand counting. There's just no reason for us not to go back to paper ballots, no mail-in ballots. I mean, there's always been absentee voting, and then naturally our troops. But there's no reason, but people get used to it and they go, oh, Charlotte, we just can't do that. And then I go, well, why don't you look at Ireland? Why don't you look at France? Why don't you look at Norway? I mean, they're doing it. They have election day. And so it's quite possible, but it's a long road. It is a long road, but I think that there are definitely issues with the machines. I mean, I've had several people tell me, well, I push the button and I think I'm voting for someone, and then I get my ballot and it's not right, and then I have to go back, and it's just, let's just go to paper. Let's go to paper and hand count them. And actually, I think it's Norway that they hand count them and they run them through a scanner. So they do two things to double check. So there's, and the mail-in ballots, I think that you saw in one of my articles that in 2012, NBC had a story about mail-in ballots. The cheat is here. So, I mean, back then, the media was admitting that this is a problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, here in Florida, we actually fill ours out and then they scan it and then they collect them. So that's how they do it here. But
yeah. So, that's just another step in electronic that maybe they could do both. Maybe they could hand count them and then scan them also.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So we're going to get ready to open up to our members shortly. Those watching the live stream, you could engage with guest speakers like retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor and also the Kansas gubernatorial candidate Charlotte O'Hara. RedAmericaFirst.com. Sign up today.
Okay. How do you plan to rally Kansas Republicans as governor to reject rhino compromises, enforce fiscal discipline, and deliver the bold limited government agenda that President Trump and grassroots patriots demand?
Okay. Let's divide that up a little bit.
Okay.
Kansas has a real problem of rhinos within the Republican Party.
Oh my God, that's in every state, and we could talk about that in the intel round, but please tell us about Kansas.
Okay, so I'll just give you an example. I was sent a contract from the GOP, Kansas GOP, to sign in order to participate in their debate. And one of the things, the requirements was that I had to agree that I would support the nominee of the Republican Party. Well, there's a candidate that's running, Vicky Schmidt, who is pro-abortion, and she has an F rating with the NRA. And so this was real simple for me. I mean, hey, I have tons of experience with contracts, being a general contractor. I just crossed out.
Through it.
I just crossed through it, and then I put,
Initialed it.
I will support the nominee if they're pro-life and they're pro-Second Amendment.
Good for you.
I was the only one.
Wow.
So went down in Winfield, we had 8 gubernatorial candidates, and I think that there were 7 of us that had signed the agreement, but even the one that had not agreed, when asked the question, she agreed that she would support the nominee, and they came to me and they go, well, I hear that you haven't signed the contract. And I said, oh, you're mistaken, I have, but I made an amendment. And I said, I said, I will support the nominee only if they are pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. Out of 8 gubernatorial candidates, I was the only one.
Wow.
That made that stipulation. So it's just that it's the good old boys. The state chamber really controls the Republican Party. So this corporate welfare, this is the uniparty of the Democrats and the Republicans. They totally agree on this. Our governor congratulated our Senate President, Ty Masterson, who is also running for governor, for fast-tracking the apex, attracting powerful economic expansion, which was the conduit of $829 million to Panasonic. Lithium batteries, which that project is falling on its face because the battery market is faltering because of the taking away of the subsidies at the federal level. It's just a mess. It is just a mess. It's that no one has demanded that the Republicans act like Republicans. When I was 3rd District Chair, I actually sent a newsletter out to the state delegates, and it was easy. I would find a Republican that had made some egregious votes, and I would invite them to explain their vote, and then I would write a column about what they'd done. Of course, naturally, they didn't take me up on explaining their vote. But there's just never been any effort at all. Instead of having a requirement for the gubernatorial candidates to support the nominee, it should have been that the gubernatorial candidates support the party platform.
Yeah.
And we just don't. We just don't.
I agree with you.
So it's just that you have to have a strong governor that's going to call out people not following the platform. But there's just not been any strong leadership. I mean, 1999, Bill Graves was a Republican, and that is the year that Kansas instituted property tax exemptions forever for alternative energy projects, wind, solar, and it was forever. We changed that to 10 years in 2015. But I mean, it's just an ingrained problem that Kansas really has just allowed this. The Republican Party just has not had any party discipline whatsoever. I'm assuming that this is true in most states.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No, this is a big one.
Yeah. So our last question, and then we'll open it up to our panel members, but on Soros money and elections and rural Bitcoin mining, your piece on loud light Soros-backed funding provides nonprofits expose how millions flow into Kansas elections and to back progressive causes, while your Bitcoin mining article warns of foreign invasion draining rural resources like water and energy. With your background as a family business owner and mother of 5, how do these globalist tactics threaten Kansas families and communities? And
it's at the number one, it's the corporate welfare. The AI data center that's in DeSoto gave them hold on to your hats, $50 billion in industrial revenue bonds.
Oh, wow.
This AI data center will be sucking out 5 to 8 million gallons a day out of the Kansas River aquifer. That
Wow.
is equivalent to a city of 50,000.
Wow.
The energy demands, basically, it's going to increase utility rates, which will be very damaging to small businesses and to the population. I mean, if there's brownouts, well, our manufacturing company, we have to have continuous power. We can't have our machines shutting down.
Right.
And so if you don't have that, it's going to be very, very damaging. So and on top of it, not only are they getting property tax exemptions for 10 years, which I don't know the specifics on how much they're going to have to pay, but it's below 50%.
Oh, wow.
They do not pay sales tax on any construction materials or equipment. If there's not equal protection under the law in the state of Kansas. And it's everywhere. I mean, the free market in the United States has been lost, and we really have to bring it back.
Yeah.
It's the only answer, because every time you give a tax incentive, it is increasing taxes for the rest of the tax base.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's start now. We're going to go to Oklahoma, which
oh yeah.
We'll go there first, and we'll call on our Oklahoma State Director, Leslie Mahan, to ask the first question. Go ahead, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for being on the show tonight. My question to you is, and I'm quoting from your website, your number 4 point for running for governor for your state is demand transparency, no more censorship. How do you plan on doing that when you are elected as governor? Thank you.
Transparency issue, that would again go back to all of these tax incentives that we are giving across the state, because no one knows how many dollars are being taken out of our local and state coffers with these tax incentives. Nobody knows. I have been trying for years to find out how much just in Johnson County. And finally, when I was a county commissioner, just in Johnson County, we in 2024 diverted $108 million from schools, cities, community colleges, et cetera, in 1 year. And it will be much higher in 2025. It's just on steroids. And I want to congratulate you for living in Oklahoma, where your property taxes are 0.75% of the value of your homes. In Kansas, it's 1.26%. So you're about, yeah. That's why Kansas is known as the high tax point on the prairie. Is one of the reasons.
Wow.
Thank you for that, Leslie. We're going to stay in Oklahoma. Wendy Montgomery, go ahead with your question, Wendy. Thank you.
Hi, Charlotte. Actually, my son right now, my youngest, is in your state in college, so Wichita State.
Oh, he's at Wichita State, and Wichita State was one of the sponsors of our World Economic Forum party. It's unbelievable. So
yeah, it is. So luckily he's got me his mom, I guess. But anyway, I just wanted to ask you a question regarding the issue with those ballots that got destroyed. Who was it that ordered the destruction, and what was the law that they used to override the sheriff's objections? Because that to me doesn't seem right.
Well, you and I totally agree on that. Scott Schwab, who is the Secretary of State, and actually in state statute, they are required to destroy ballots after they've held them for so long. However, when there is an investigation And when the Attorney General requests that they not be destroyed and that there is an ongoing investigation, I mean, I put in a request of the AG as if this was destruction of evidence, is this a criminal offense that these ballots were destroyed? And I was told I had no standing because I was a single county commissioner and it would have required the vote of the entire commission to answer that question. Naturally, I'm not going to get that because there were only two Republicans on the board out of 7.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, I was curious about that.
Oh, it's terrible. And our sheriff was so hammered for investigating the 2020 election. He lost in the election in his bid for re-election in 2024. He lost.
Wow, that's a shame. That's a
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a little stunned to hear that they basically destroyed ballots over during an active investigation.
Absolutely. They said,
I
"Oh,
agree.
Sounds really shady.
yeah,
Yeah.
terrible."
Yeah. Well, thank you for at least attempting to try to prevent that from happening.
You can go out on my website. My columns are posted there, o'haraforkansas.com. Actually, oh yes, that column should be posted out there. And my cartoons, I have a friend of mine that does the cartoons, Tim McCabe. He is a genius, and it's just really those cartoons really, the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and they truly are just amazing.
Well, thank you for that. We're going to go to our magazine editor-in-chief, Rosemary. Go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Charlotte, I do want to thank you for all the things you are doing, and I want to compliment you on your overview of the needs in education as a former teacher and administrator, and also someone who served on a congressional educational advisory committee. I do see the need that you are speaking about. Now, how do you feel about being able to implement a curriculum that will include history of our country, because so many children are being indoctrinated rather than learning about our country and the differences between socialism and capitalism and so forth. How do you envision being able to do that? And also, I would like to ask you if you would kindly write an article that we can include in our magazine regarding your viewpoints or agenda or anything that you feel is important that you would like to share with us.
Well, I tell you, you can go out on my website again and look at my columns, and you're welcome to take whatever you want from those columns and publish. And if you need something else from me, just get a hold of me. My phone number, my cell phone number is 913-304-4148. Texting is a great way to communicate with me. History I love history. I read a lot. I've read a ton of biographies. John Adams is one of my favorite presidents. So it is very, very important that our children understand our history and understand the difference between the different philosophies, Marxism, capitalism. They need to understand where our roots come from. They need to understand that we are a Christian nation. Founders Bible, are you familiar with that? The Wall Builders.
I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, hang on just a second. Mine's right here.
Let me see if Dr. Aaron's on. Dr. Aaron, have you heard of this?
the Founder's Bible, and it has a ton of founding documents interspersed amongst the scriptures.
Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, it's just, this is an example.
That's pretty. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's amazing, and it's just great. It's a great resource.
Sure.
But my vision for education in Kansas is to cut the strings, shut the State Board of Education down, push the responsibility for curriculum down to the local level, and then with the encouragement that you have reading, phonics, writing, cursive, arithmetic, basics, get the facts, get that foundation, get that good foundation. And then of course, history and science. And I'm a musician and I'm a poet. So I mean, I'm all over music and the fine arts, but you have to have your basic curriculum first. And if people at the local level really understand that they have the power to make a difference, because right now they don't feel like that they make a difference. They go to the school board meetings. No one listens to them. We're being fed the curriculum from the federal government. And when you take the free and reduced lunch money and boom, you are under the requirements of the federal government.
Right.
We have to cut those strings. It's just all there is to it. And if people in the local community, they want to focus on classical education, wonderful. That is what they should do. And in the farming communities, in the farming community that I had, there's all sorts of industrial arts, welding and working, and those things are extremely important too. And there's a lot of community colleges in Kansas that do have a lot of those programs. So there's so many possibilities, but what we are doing right now is that we're cheating our children.
Yeah.
And I was telling my middle daughter, she's an artist, and she's also a horse trainer. So she brought her puppy over, her puppy and my puppy. They're 2 weeks apart, half siblings, and they loved, getting out and wrestling around. But we were talking, and she said, "Mom, it's going to be that no one's going to know how to read. They're just going to be looking at videos." And I said, "Yeah, kind of like the cave people. They'll just go in and read and look at the drawings, and they won't know how to read." And it truly is that's where we're heading. And when you have kids, over 50% of your kids can't read and they can't do basic math, what are we doing? And that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, but the local communities have to feel empowered that they're actually making a difference and that they can have control, because right now they don't think that they do. And it is difficult, because I mean, I've gone to those school board meetings, I know, and it's, well, you just don't have the credentials, you need to be an expert. And well, I'm not thinking that those experts have been doing such a good job. No. And so we just need to get back to good old basic common sense. Yeah. And quit. We monetize our children in Kansas too, and you probably in the rest of the states do the same. Then in our school formula, if you find anything wrong with the kid or something extraordinary about the kid, you get more money. And then they all have their individual education plan, IPE, individual IEP. And and basically they're just harvesting our kids for money. Yeah. And administration costs, oh my gosh, the money needs to go to the classroom. I mean, we're spending $19,000 per pupil in the state of Kansas. Wow.
On that note, let's go to Aloha State. Victoria has got a question for you, and then we're going to go back to Ohio and then California. Hey. Go ahead, Victoria. Thank you.
If I can make it quick enough, I'd like to do a two-part question, but stop me if I go over. First part is, what do you think about the new Real ID and Apple ID? Second part would be, how would you propose people get away from government and social services?
Okay, the Real ID, no. no, what we really need to fight that. I did not get my little special thing on my driver's license. It's just one more tracking apparatus. Then what was the second part of your question?
Yeah, that was my point. Only one question, guys, but go ahead, Victoria.
Well, how would you propose people get away from government and social services?
Oh, okay. Okay. Actually, I was asked this question down in Wichita a week and a half ago. What are you going to do about our foster care system? Okay, so my youngest daughter is adopted. She came to my home when she was 10. And I said, the churches have to step up and really start to take this seriously. These children need homes. And the problem when a kid is in foster care, they aren't adopted. They don't have a home. At 18, they're out on their own. They don't have that family foundation that they can reach out to help them, fly into success. They're like going out of the nest, and they have no one to help them. And so it really is incumbent upon us in the community to step up and really take part in being these children's family. I also go to the Juvenile Detention Center on Tuesday afternoons for Bible study. And that's been a tremendous experience for me. And, I told the folks down in Wichita, I said, hey, I brought 2 children into my home, and I had all intentions of adopting both of them. My daughter's brother, who's 18 months older, chose not to stay with us after about 6 months. And I homeschooled him, and this is amazing. In 6 months, I had them caught up.
Oh, wow.
I had them caught up in 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's very doable. And I said, hey, I understand how hard this is, but that's our responsibility as adults. And then the other thing is that grandparents have to ensure that if grandparents want to raise these children, that they have the opportunity, because there's been some nightmare stories in Kansas of grandparents not having the opportunity to take their grandchildren.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a good question, Victoria. Rob, Ohio, we've missed you for a long time. Welcome back. Go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Hi, Miss O'Hara. I just gotta say, I really like your jean jacket.
Oh, thank you. You know what? This is really funny because when I was raised on a farm, we had jean jackets like this. And so, I don't know, 15 years ago, jean jackets kind of came back into style. And I went, oh, this is hilarious. This is what we used to wear out to the barn.
That looks like one of the classic ones.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen happen here in Ohio is outside money, outside the state, they come in and they influence the inside of our state.
Oh, yeah.
How would you prevent that from happening in Kansas?
Well,
because if you think about it, your data center that you were talking about, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Kansas. I'll bet you if you follow the money, there was money exchanged there to get it.
We have a terrible problem in Kansas with nonprofit organizations. I mean, at the county level, there's contracts given out to NGOs. At the state level, there's contracts given out to NGOs, and our education department, I mean, tens of millions of dollars are handed out to NGOs to develop curriculum, which is nothing but leftist agenda. So we have to stop giving these tax dollars to NGOs. And then to your point is that then these outside organizations, these Soros organizations, and I think that name was Open Society Foundation, I think is the overarching Soros Foundation. Then they come in, and some of those organizations that get money is Loud Light and Tides Foundation. There's 3 or 4 different Tides foundations, and I mean that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. And I don't think that you can actually stop that money coming in. I think that what we have to do is let people know that it's coming in and where it's coming from, that transparency. And then we conservatives, we conservatives are very conservative with our money. And we don't give like the people on the left. It's a real problem because we are getting outspent. And honestly, I never thought that Johnson County would really turn blue, but it has. And Sedgwick County, they had a terrible turnout. They only had 11% turnout in their elections for the municipal levels, school board and city council, et cetera. We had 25%, but we lost almost every Republican lost. But we have nonpartisan elections. Do you have nonpartisan elections in Ohio for your?
I don't believe so.
Well, that's one problem that we absolutely, this happened in the early 1900s, and it was a backlash against the Tammany Hall big city politics, and we started the nonpartisan for school boards and the cities, and some county elections for the county commission also are nonpartisan, including Johnson County. And the Republicans won't vote if they don't know the party of who's. They won't. And so, and then in Kansas, because the Republican Party has meant nothing for so long, is that a lot of the conservatives have given up voting. So we have a very multi-level. You have to get a governor who's going to take the bully pulpit, go out to the cities, go out to the school districts and say, what are you doing? Bring the media and really shine the light on what's happening, because so many people just don't know.
Yeah, a little bit like a Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, you have to get it out. You have to take that bully pulpit, and you have to have the message that we can take our state back. And that, people talk about states' rights. You can't have state rights if you take the federal dollars. You're selling your sovereignty. Every time you take one of those federal dollars, you're selling your sovereignty.
Yeah. How does Dave Ramsey put it? The borrower is enslaved to the loaner.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
So now we're going to go to California, arguably one of the most liberal states that's under fire with Gavin Newsom. Christian, our state leader, go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Ms. O'Hare. I have a question about how to deal with the NGOs and the schools in your state. As governor, would you be willing to sponsor a measure to remove the tax exempt status of any school district or organization that has been espousing all these DEI actual actions that have caused so much chaos in the United States?
That would not pass constitutional scrutiny because we are required to finance our schools. However, I would require that all DEI, the woke agenda, has to be gone. But again, if you have the federal dollars coming in, that is embedded in this curriculum, this Common Core and social emotional learning. It's really, the answer is to cut those strings from the federal government so that we can actually have local control. We don't have local control. I mean, this is all across the country. If you're taking federal dollars, you have Common Core, you have social emotional learning in your classrooms, because that you have that federal curriculum.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that. But I think that if they take the dollars and they bank them, that banking of the dollars, they're not denied taking the dollars, but the interest on that they should pay taxes on that, or they should remove their tax exempt status. You're not removing their dollars, you're just taxing them.
I think that you're talking about what your bottom line is that you want DEI and the woke agenda out of the schools. You really want the local
Right.
of the schools.
So they lose their bank accounts by their self-generating bank accounts, because they won't be able to gain interest on it. They'll have to pay taxes on it, which will go back to the state, that could be redistributed in other areas that are non-DEI.
Again, I think that we just have to require that the DEI and the woke agenda is out of our schools. Now, it is going to be tough. It is going to take a lot of work. And I'll tell you, Johnson County will be the toughest place, but because I'm so familiar with this, then I can really spotlight them as to what they're doing. And our Constitution on school funding is it is controlled by an extremely liberal state Supreme Court. Now, this is a good news, is that we're going to have a vote in August that will require the direct election of our state Supreme Court. Right now, our Bar Association controls who is nominated to be on the state Supreme Court. It's unbelievable how liberal our state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court found the right of abortion in our 1861 Constitution. That's how bad it is. So if we get this direct election of our state Supreme Court, then we can start making other headways as far as our school finance. But again, if we want local control, we have to stop taking those federal dollars.
Thank you for that. Susie, Hawaii, with the last member question, and then Valerie and I will end it. Go ahead, Susie.
Aloha, Charlotte, and congratulations on your candidacy. I hope you have just smooth success all the way. And I just wanted to ask you, because the schools are such an issue of contention and cutting the cord from the Department of Education, I think it is critical. Has there been any movement where you're at grassroots movement to start like a community school program? Neighborhood schools?
Yes. We have a very, very dynamic homeschooling community. And there was one of the teachers in the Shawnee Mission School District that during COVID, he got fed up and he started his own school, and it's been very successful. And there's unfortunately some of our religious schools, because they take the free and reduced lunch money, then they fall under the requirements of the federal government. But we do have a robust homeschool community. Unfortunately, a lot of the homeschoolers have kind of been seduced by computers, and that they think that they can set their kids in front of computers. And honestly, we have got to throw computers out of the classroom. Absolutely. It's addictive, and it is just very, very unhealthy for our kids. We've got to get them back to pencil and paper, please.
Well, Charlotte, we would like to schedule you to come back as a return guest, and also try to work out a debate with other gubernatorial candidates. So we would like to work that out. And we just wanted to ask, this is your first time coming on Town Hall. What did you think about the engagement, the questions? And
it's great. I loved it. I love questions.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, we'd love to have you come back. So we'll get you closer when it gets a little bit, closer to your guys.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I is my biggest challenge right now is raising money, because I'm not getting the big corporation money, and because they want the handouts, and I'm quite well known for being against the corporate welfare. And so I am relying on just small donations is what I'm relying on. And it's tough. I mean, it's an uphill battle, but when you have all of these contributions from smaller contributors, and the GOP is requiring that I have, one of the requirements is that I have 800 individual donors at a minimum of $100. So my donors that are under $100, they don't count. And I had a contribution of $5 from this lady, this woman in Arkansas City, and she put on a little note, and I have it right over here. And she said, "I'm sorry, but I can only afford $5." I nearly cried.
Oh.
She doesn't count. She doesn't count. That's the attitude of the GOP. I mean, it's big
terrible.
money. It's big
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So anyway, if anybody's interested, go to o'haraforkansas.com. You can get all my columns, and I write a weekly column. Not quite sure what I'm going to write on this week, but for next Tuesday, but something will come up, and I'll hammer something out and send it over to Tim McCabe, and he'll come up with a cartoon and go on down the road.
Well, make sure you mention something about town hall. We loved having you, and we'll definitely watch how the primaries go, and we'll have you come back for sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's really wonderful, and I enjoyed all the questions.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Charlotte.
much.
And
We
we're going to
enjoyed
be
having you.
watching you and having you come back and maybe have a debate as well. So
Okay. Thank you.
thank you,
Have a
guys.
wonderful night. Bless you.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a night. Gubernatorial candidate of Kansas, Charlotte O'Hara, and also Colonel Douglas Macgregor, kind of walking us through the global picture when it relates to war. Now we're going to go to the intel round, state to state. Going to start on national topics first. So those that are watching the live stream, thank you for tuning in tonight. Every week, hashtag town hall. We got a lot of national things to discuss. The H-1B visa fraud, versus, America first, hiring, but, people from out of the country instead of our Americans within the country. Epstein's files, there's a lot of people thinking there's cover up, deep state protection. We're going to discuss that in great detail. Pro-Israel versus America first rift. We're going to talk about that. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is she a hero or is she a rhino sellout? And much, much more. But first, I just want to talk to Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray, what'd you think of tonight? And let's make sure everyone is aware of what's coming on Town Hall after Thanksgiving, leading up to Christmas, a couple Thursdays in December. What say you? Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Ashley. Tonight was really good. I will say a couple of things that the Colonel Macgregor said kind of made me. I had some questions about a couple of things he said, more from a spiritual standpoint than anything else. So there was that. But besides that, I thought it was really good, very informative. I do think that I do love how her name just left my head.
Charlotte O'Hara.
Yeah, her. Thank you, her. It's her. I love how the focus she has and what she's doing in her state. That is very important, and the fact that she was a teacher and she's being involved in that and focusing on what's being taught is very important, because we have allowed our kids in this country to be indoctrinated for far too long, which we definitely need to stop, and it's got to start somewhere. So I was very appreciative of that. And as for what's coming up in December after Thanksgiving on RAF on hashtag Town Hall, Mom and I will be continuing what we started last year, which was the life, the birth, the reason for Christmas, the life of Jesus Christ, and we're going to be continuing that for the in December on Town Hall, which we're really excited about, because we like to get a little more in depth than we did last year on what we were looking at in the life and what went on with his birth and what that meant and what that brings about for us and what actually happened and what brought it about, so that we could have him and have redemption that he's offered upon the cross.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Dr. Gray. Rob, Ohio's trying to check out really early. He's been up a long time, and he's our intel round, kind of back up when we walk our dogs. But gosh, Rob, we missed you. Tell us before you log off, out of those national topics, what is one that I missed that you would want to bring up tonight? Thank you.
I can't think of one, to tell you the truth, Ashley. My mind's just much right at the moment.
Okay.
But
That's okay. It's understandable.
That's understandable. Any Ohio topic you want to bring up before you log off?
No, Ohio's kind of calm right now. The only thing I can think of, something's been going on here, was with the lawsuits and the class action. They finally started getting the ball rolling after 2 years.
Wow.
And,
Yeah, I heard something about that.
So what's the verdict?
Well, they're going to pay us. They've been, just the first group they had to sending out the money, they were not exactly in compliance, and there's going to probably be fraud charges charged there. Whenever you see a lot of money, there's always people that's going to try to take the most of it.
Yeah.
So we won't know until probably February 3rd, which will be the 3rd year anniversary.
Wow.
3rd or 4th year. So, but at least they're getting it moving somewhat.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but tonight was really good. It's always good to hear Colonel Macgregor, his opinion, since he has more intel coming in and more of a worldly perspective of how things go.
I want to tell you, Rob, and every panel member, we will get him. He texted me, I need 90 minutes next time. So I said, okay, we're gonna get you 90 minutes next time. We love his intel. He's a great man. So on that note, Rob, thanks for sharing your intel.
Well,
get some sleep. All right.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Rob.
And
Good night, Rob.
a new rule: those that like to dip out early, put in the chat. You're going to bed. Don't take over the meeting. So I'm going to bed, guys. Don't do that anymore. Victoria, we got a lot to talk about in Hawaii before we get there.
Your chat is disabled.
Before
The chat is disabled?
Thank you. Before we get to Hawaii, because there's a lot to talk about in Hawaii. OMG. And there's a lot to talk about in Florida, a lot to talk about in Texas. The redistricting is falling out again. A lot of shenanigans going on. So let me see if Rosemarie would help me with Florida. Larry, if you're there, Larry, Texas, get ready. Come back. Julie Umanto's going to talk Hawaii with us when we get Victoria up here. I was trying to get Tamara. Tamara, yes. She's going to hop back on. And we'll talk about Hawaii. So real quick, Rosemarie, help me out here. Okay. Oh, she says she's AFK. What's happening in Florida? You would think it's MAGA country, right? And arguably in the conservative movement, we probably are the highest state in the union, probably higher in Texas now. But there are 3 strategic counties that have been usurped by rhinos. And that is happening all over our country. And we're going to expose how bad this looks because Hawaii, literally any hope that GOP had just got demolished last week, and we're going to talk about that as soon as Tamara hops on. But let's see, Dr. Gray. Well, never mind. There's no Florida people on here. Rosemarie's sleeping. Tom?
Yeah.
See if Tom's awake.
His camera's on.
He's on mute though.
What's
Thomas?
up? Yes.
So Thomas, are you aware of the corrupt counties in Florida that the rhinos have taken over? In one case, they changed the locks to the whole rec building.
Yeah.
So the
the other ones can't get
GOP they
ones
they
that
go
are
to their
locked
office and it's completely locked.
Okay, living in Philadelphia, for all my life, I believe that could happen, but I'm not aware of it down here. I thought we were like so red down here. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna try to educate everybody tonight that rhinos. This is kind of me sounding the alarm. That rhinos are attacking every state, and I was worried about Hawaii 4 years ago. And I actually made a post about this, said, man, I think I'm 4 years too late. So on
Right,
that note,
Hawaii's gone.
well, we're going to talk about it. We got Tamara joined, so let's see if we can get her video started. And Julie Amato's on as well. Victoria, I would like you to lead into this.
I got go ahead.
Kind of give us bullet points of what happened.
I was listening to the conversation.
Give us bullet points of what happened. Try not to drag the narrative out too long, and then we'll call in Tamara right now.
So we've recently had our chair for the Hawaii Republican Party resign. We've also had multiple other resignations throughout the state party, and going down the chain. People have just kind of fallen out. Biggest thing that happened this last week was our national committeeman, and pretty much one of the last patriots in there actually gave his resignation to the party, which was super shocking because he's always on top of it and is just awesome. I'm sure Tamara could probably tell you more. There's a lot going on in the party. There's a lot of rhinos who have taken over, and it was, I mean, something that I saw, and I wasn't in there very long, but I watched. I was observant, and it was, people were not aligning with the platform or the planks. And when you have people who aren't aligning in the party, that's kind of a big red flag that they shouldn't be there. So people saying, yes, I support this because they want the support of the Republican or Democratic Party and aren't falling in line with your values should be a big red flag. So it's kind of been downhill ever since the state convention at the end of May.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Victoria. That information is good. Julie Yamato, still a treasurer for the Honolulu GOP. What say you, Julie? Because Nolan, gosh darn, you know, he's a hard charger. He just said, I quit.
So I can say some introductory things. But Tamara's here, and she is definitely like in the mix with the state committee meetings. So we have 2 levels sort of in our Hawaii Republican Party. They're at the top, or I guess maybe at the upper level, is the overseeing state committee. They have a state committee, executive committee, and then they also have a state committee with all the district chairs. So district chairs in all of our state attend both meetings with the state and with their counties. I'm with the Honolulu County, so the island of Oahu, so the leadership on Oahu, and where Nolan Chang that we're talking about resigned as our committee chair, and also as at the state level as our national committee man. So I don't attend state meetings because I'm not I don't have a position on the state committee, and I'm not a district chair. So what I do see is a lot of issues happening that are, I would call, very unfair. So the new chair that he resigned, as Victoria mentioned. His name is Art Hanneman. He was elected apparently because he was going to bring unity to the party. At our convention in May, his promise was a lot. He had a lot of lofty goals. But what we got to see during the entire time that he was in office, he was really not doing anything. And in fact, he was kind of using a tyrannical type of regime methodology to run meetings. And he wasn't even really running meetings. It was his first vice chair who was running meetings. Tamara will probably give you the details of all of that. These are just things that I hear about and know about. And I talked with Nolan a bit about what's happening at the state level. But he is being picked on for, I guess, doing the things that he's doing correctly. Art Hanneman just believes in not liking Nolan Chang, and I guess you could call it disparate treatment because he's not doing it necessarily to the other county chairs.
Wow. Well, Tamara, what say you? Thank you, Julie. Tamara, I cannot allow Hawaii to be usurped. Okay. It's already a quadfecta against the people as it is. Do we have any hope in Hawaii? Go ahead, Tamara. Thank you.
Do we have any hope in Hawaii? Sadly to say, I don't think so. There's a lot of, things that have gone on, and this seems to have been an agenda that has been going on for years. We have the same players that have been doing this for years and years and years. If you start looking at it, I'm working on a dossier right now, putting it together with all the documents that I had access to. Even to this day, as past chair, which I'm supposed to be part of the executive committee, they have shut me out. So the same people who brought the party to its knees are back in control. I'll give you an example. When I did win the seat of state chair in September 9th of 2023, that wasn't supposed to happen. And when I did, they were very upset that I did. When I inherited the state chair, we were over $70,000 in debt. There was a lien on our building. I was the 9th chair in 2 years. And the current first chair that they arranged to put in place to Art Hanneman, who did recently resign. See, there's a huge investigation. I've been calling for an investigation for years, even since I was a county chair, of what is going on in Hawaii, because it's very, very deep, connected with national players. I recently just sent a new document that came in. There's a character by the name of Thomas Datweiler who has been doing things that he is under investigation for and has had his fingers in the state of Hawaii as well, along with another character by the name of Joel Borquest. And so they were involved when I had gotten in, and then when they tried to come and attack me, I had so much documentation to fight what they were doing against me, and I fought hard, and I'm one of the only chairs that finished their term. There's so much to tell of what is going on, and like I said, when we were in debt, I turned it around, got creative with trying to be responsible with the funding that we got from the presidential campaigns. I was able to sell the building, and when I did eventually turn, they paid for a lot of people to fly over when they ran against me. Art Hanneman and his crew, they were paying for people's hotels, their tickets, and even people who were not even delegates to go to Kauai and vote. I didn't pay a dime. He probably spent about $25,000 to run against me. And I really wasn't sure about running because I saw it was the attacks were getting greater against me. They even went after my husband, and it's just been crazy. This story has so many twists and turns. It's unbelievable. When I look at it and the things that I've dealt with for the past almost 5 years, that I started to get involved with a group of 5 other women who just wanted to make change for the state of Hawaii. This is deep, and Hawaii needs a lot of help. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be uncovered. The person who is the first vice chair, she also resigned in 2021 because she caused the party a $60,000 fine, which was covered by the RNC later. And that's a whole other story in itself. And so all of her cronies that were in place then are now back in seat. Of course, now the party isn't, when I handed over, it was almost $1.2 million in that we were in the positive. And now, like was mentioned before, when Art Hanneman took over, he held one regular meeting. Then they started to manipulate and weaponize Robert's Rules of Order, only have special meetings to where nobody had a voice, nobody could make a motion. They dictated what was going to happen. They manipulate the rules even till today. We have no idea what they're doing with the funds. They went and they hired an executive director. I have a piece of document where they intentionally hid the document from me, Nolan Chang, and another county chair because they didn't want us to see the contents of the contract that they wrote for their handpicked executive director. And we haven't had an executive director in years. And now they agreed to pay her $6,400 a month, and we don't know what she's doing to this day. I just, there's so many things, like I said, there's so many levels to what is going on. But as I said before, this needs to be exposed. All the information is hidden in plain sight, along with several witnesses, documentation. I was able to retrieve many files and keep many files. I do get uncomfortable where I live. We've had people drive by late at night where nobody should be driving by. We don't have a high traffic place where we live. I have been threatened. My husband has been threatened. And so what I believe is going on is just, and a good majority of these people are ex-Democrats as well. So you'd have to just kind of ask me the questions in order for me to know which direction to go in. Because like I said, this is really big and really bad of what's going on in the state of Hawaii. The party has been taken over. It has been manipulated, and really it's a one-party blue state. Well, they believe it's a blue state, but really the majority of the people in our state do have conservative values. They kind of vote because traditionally that's how they've been taught to vote. And when the unions took over after there was a reign, 60, 70 years ago, a Republican rule, the unions have taken over, and that's pretty much predominantly why we remain as a Democratic state.
Tamara, I have to tell you, an outsider looking in and looking at every state, all the rhinos doing a full court press. I'm worried about the midterms, 2026 midterms. We're already seeing the agenda being pushed that Republicans are divided. Then you look in a magnifying glass and you look at what's going on in Hawaii. Your attorney general, your governor, your Senate, your lower and upper chambers, it's all Democrat.
Yeah.
There's no checks and balances in your state. And then when you look at the actual county level GOP office, you don't have any America First people running them. They all left because what you just said. You can't have a meeting, you can't talk. The agenda was dictated, and you couldn't do anything outside of what they wanted to do. I'm here to tell you, our 26 midterms are going to be going the other way. We're going to lose position in the Senate and in the House. And I just trying to remind, this is where California is going to bang us pretty soon over the heads. Guys, it's corrupt. The uniparty still is in control, and you're seeing it right now. You're seeing it start at the county levels, at the state levels. You're seeing red states turn purple. You're seeing blue states turn blue. It's going to take 6 years for I mean, it's already blue, but it's getting bluer. You mean Hawaii, it's going to take you guys 6 years to even get your county back.
That's crazy.
That's how long it
shouldn't
takes to rip out the corruption. We've known it because we were in a blue county in Florida, and we actually finally flipped it this last election cycle. So I'm really worried. I've been pinging people like you and Julie Yamato 4 years ago when RAF just started, and I saw this coming. And I hate to say it, they took Alaska the last cycle, they took you guys the last cycle, and I don't see a path of getting both of those states back. I really don't. And I'm just speaking out as somebody that has fought in multiple wars and is still fighting for this country today. I'm really worried. It drives me crazy. Julie, anything you want to say to this?
I just it's just incredible to actually see the the writing on the wall, and you can't imagine what it's like to be around these types of people. I actually feel and believe in my heart that these people are actually activists from Antifa or BLM, intended to sway
or Soros funded. Who cares what color the money? It's evil money that's infiltrating our country from within. Guys, I hate to tell you, we're being attacked from within from multiple ways. Okay, not just politically, but we got the illegals coming in that's going to do some more fear mongering in our country. We're going to have a false flag in December. We've already reported that's going to happen. So we need to mitigate. Tamara, what can we do in Hawaii? I mean, we talked to Ralph, we talked to other people, and then every little jab that the freedom fighters are trying to do gets thrown out. It's like we don't have a voice. It's complete. The rug's been completely ripped from under us. Samara, what do you say?
Well, what about the national leader?
So it's really challenging, especially in Hawaii. We've been rated as the #1 most corrupt state. At least we were last year, and that we beat New York. Now with the new election over there in New York, I'm sure they're going to take the lead back. But the only way that we're going to win is by hardcore grassroots efforts. And it's, really pulling neighborhood by neighborhood together, educating them of the process and how important their voices are. And this is also teaching sustainability and building trust within our communities at the bottom grassroots effort to the dirt where we're planting the seed and literally growing our own crops, because you see what they're doing now with our food, the food manipulation and everything else that they're trying to do. Even our governor is, even though it was hugely voted against the vaccine, he is ready to sign a bill to where they won't even honor religious exemptions from vaccine mandates, which that says a lot in itself. So where we're going. So again, it's educating by the grassroots effort, door by door, group by group, and waking people up. It's the only way. Some people get tired, they don't believe it. That's the other thing is proof, education, and otherwise, a lot of people, there are some people who are waking up, but at the same time there's a lot of fear, and they're just complacent, and then afterwards when they start to see and it starts to hit them, then it's like, oh my gosh, I should have listened to you. And I'm hoping that it's not too late. I don't know about Hawaii, but really the mainland has more population, and the more that we get people involved, especially in on the mainland, and get more eyes, we have to expose by shame. exposure by shame. We just have to continue to expose them too. We need help badly.
Yeah. You're on mute.
Oh,
I
sorry.
was just saying that, sorry, I didn't even notice. Your elections are taken from you too. So people just probably feel hopeless and they can't even voice their vote. You know what I mean? So it does need to go up to a national Republican level somehow. I mean, they've got to know that there's something bad going on there, I would think.
Well, Tamara, we would like you to come multiple weeks in the future, and we would like to get updates because we are worried about Hawaii. I used to live in Aiea and Eva Beach myself, so it's an important state for us to not lose. And gosh darn it, if anybody wants to mitigate rhinos from taking over a state, they need to watch what they're doing to your state, and we need to mitigate that because Hawaii's gone for 6 years or more, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully not.
So, we'll keep watching that. Thank you, Tamara and Victoria and Julie for the updates. We're going to go to Texas and other states. Thank you, Tamara. So, Larry, this is your first time on Town Hall. Gosh, I usually use Ron, Nevada as a good example of how we do state to state, but we try to rack and stack the highest priority things you want to bring up that's going on in Texas, like top 5, get it under 5 minutes or so. I'm hearing about the synagogues, the mosques, you know, in 2 years, there's like 40 of them all over Texas. I'm hearing about, you know, what Governor Abbott just signed. So go ahead, tell us what's going on. Thank you. And what did you think about Town Hall tonight? This is your first time.
Yeah, it was excellent. I'm sorry I had to step off. I had a phone call I had to take, so I had to step off for a minute. But no, I think it was very well done. Obviously, you know, Colonel Macgregor, you know, has an outstanding reputation. He gave some really good insight. And our candidate from Kansas was very inspiring. No, very good. And Valerie had mentioned, you know, about what we should think about regarding issues in the state. You know, and I can talk about the border, and I can talk about elections, and I can talk about school choice and property taxes. I'm just going to give it to you real quick. I'm going to hit it from a different angle, and I heard you a little bit earlier, and I think we're on the same page here. Here is the way I see it. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I think I have a few. We are at the end of the game. We are in the fourth quarter, and we're behind by several touchdowns. I think we're mistaken if we think this is a left and right issue. The more I see, the more you scratch the surface, the more it becomes very clear it's not left and right. It's the political establishment against we the people. And I'm going to go real quick because this is a big, broad subject. I can talk about it at length, but the bottom line is there's a small satanic parasitic group that want to destroy America for one world government, and they are operating all key levers of power, especially in finance, especially in politics, especially in industry, education, entertainment. You know this, right? So the fact that we're going to look at a small issue is irrelevant. This is so bad. You have to look at it in the military. You're a military guy. How did we get here? How did we get so far down and these evil bastards get so far ahead? And the reason, because they have a monopoly on the narrative. And we've talked about this, the monopoly on the narrative. Okay, and they've been able to do what they want because nobody has questioned them because they controlled the narrative. And because of that, I mean, corporate media, as we talked about, the government, any sources. Somebody asked, you know, who should we listen to? And I'm going to tell you right now, listen to people that have been canceled, censored, or attacked. because they're the ones telling you the truth, and then make sure they got a credible track record, and make sure that you got one more corroborating it. So the center of gravity for the enemy, that which gives them their strength and that which taken away will ensure their demise, is their monopoly on the narrative. So the answer to our problems is, how do we get the truth out? Simple question, tough problem. Especially, I mean, look at social media. Look at social media. I mean, I think probably everybody on here has been kicked off of every outlet. So if you're kicked off every outlet, you're not going to get any major time. Larry Ellison owns Twitter. Elon Musk owns Twitter. Larry Ellison owns TikTok. I've been kicked off of every one a dozen times. So the answer to the problem is, how do we get the truth out? They can't survive the truth. Sadly, it's going to probably take their next act, as you mentioned, a false flag. You know it's coming. We all know it's coming. And COVID was a big wake-up call to everybody. And this one's going to be significantly worse. But, they dumbed down the American population for decades. So we don't have many critical thinkers. So
that is true.
Well, even after all the stuff happening, look at what happened with Trump, right? HB1 visas, Chinese visa passport, student passports, what he did about Epstein, what he's saying about wars. Quantico was a complete call to war. So all these things, and people are still supporting him. And so this is crystal clear at this point to me, and I think most critical thinkers, that this guy's not bringing MAGA. And I think we need to give up.
Oh, man. And on that note, Larry, I'm glad you brought up all these things. Okay, I just want to take what Larry transmitted and add one little piece. Okay, affordability buzzword, affordability. Get that in your brains. That's what the Republican Party is running on in the midterms 2026. Affordability. So let me tell you what that really means. Okay, let's go back in time. 8 years ago, World Economic Forum says, you won't own anything and you'll be happy.
That's right.
Okay. And this affordability is happening right now. Everything around us, price-wise, is going this way. Everything. And then by the time Trump's out of office, we got 2028, then we got 2030. By that time, this is where Ken, I'm going to call on you. Ken's been very vocal on Town Hall for a long time about the financial collapse. Okay. And I want him to bring up a couple of points, and then we're going to, those that are watching the live stream, we love you. Just like what Larry said, I don't want to get another strike on YouTube and all these things. So we're going to see you guys, live streamers. We're going to see you guys next Thursday. Tune in at 9 or 8. 9 o'clock next week. And then Pastor's Point this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We love you guys. But the next stuff we're talking about, we're going to get red flagged, and we're just not going to get red flagged tonight. So thank you. Come to redamericafirst.com, sign up. Ken, I want you to wake the people up about what's really going on in the financial piece, because I look around, prices are going up, the dollar's value is going down, and so is the stock market, so is the Bitcoin, and even precious metals had a little dip. What say you? Thank you.
Oh, can everybody hear me?
Come closer. Come closer.
Okay, now my microphone is here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll Colonel Douglas and Larry. I'll carry on from there. He really summed up very well. But as he said, be in the fourth innings, 2 touchdowns behind, the game is over. Okay, we are in the final false flag from the liquidity crisis. But if you go back to Larry's situation, let's go to savings and loan scam in this country, what happened? Then go to .com crisis, which led to 9/11. Then we go to mortgage scam to steal the homes of the American people. Then we go to unleashed of covert scam by the excuse my language, MF traitor Trump. Okay, 100% he's a con man. And this is the shocking part in this country. that even here, people did not believe when he unleashed COVID. $8 trillion he printed. Inflation started under him. The Biden continued. This is uniparty traitors destroying this nation within. Now where we are, I'll just bring it to you guys to a very critical step where Trump is selling the country with the Saudi asshole up there and Elon Musk right now dancing like anything. There's a party in America going on up in White House. This is unheard of. And I can give you every crime on this show, how much Trump has looted just becoming a second-term president. His family has looted over $4 billion that I have documented. Daylight robbery of this country in crypto scam done by Donald Trump. His Truth Social run by Devin Nunes, who was a Republican Party's Intelligence Committee with Dianne Feinstein, because I've confronted these assholes before myself, sorry my language. But these